I have 5 simple musical ideas that are really going to help you finish your guitar solos. Okay, the first concept is what I call the slowdown ascent. In order to slow down the tempo, and we're ending right here. This one needs to be planned ahead a little bit. It requires from the player to know ahead of time the chord that you are going to land on, the chord that really makes the transition between the last note of your solo and you doing something else. In this case, because it's a blues, it's a typical chord progression made of the 3 chords that we find in the blues, so the 1, 4, 5, A, D, and E. We're going to target a note of A, which is the first chord of the chord progression. And so that's what I did here. I ascended a scale, we'll talk about that scale in a second, and landed on the A. And that was the first step, knowing which note you are targeting. Here's the A that I'm gonna target, which is on the 1st string 17th fret. Remember, we're doing an ascending scale pattern, so I wanna end high there. But we're doing things backwards. We're starting from the end, the note I wanna target, and I'm going to descend my scale. I'm gonna use 3 notes per string because I wanna have this feel of acceleration, deceleration when I'm doing that. And I'm gonna try to figure out the scale. So I'm looping the turnaround here. I know that I want to end here, and then I'm just gonna try to use my ear to find a scale that'll work. That one. That's the one. See, that's the preparation part. It happens in the back end. You are preparing your out. Eventually, it'll become second nature, and you'll be able to do that on the fly. But it's really important to spend time developing your ear and the fretboard knowledge that is required. Notice that it wasn't something like, I'm playing here, here's the turnaround, I'm gonna use E mixolydian because my theory tells me that it works. It doesn't work like that. The theory can explain things, but really the practical ear application on the guitar is the most important thing, I think, to become a fluent, comfortable player. So that's what we did here, and now we're going to reverse the process, and I'm just gonna try to fit that. And remember, there's a deceleration that I want there. That works. You might need to do that several times to get a feel for it, to be comfortable with kind of taking control over what's going on. What I mean by that is that the scale that you're playing, because of the slowdown, is not really locked into time, so it takes a little bit of confidence. Play that several times, you'll get comfortable over it, and this is something that you can do to end a solo very easily. This next one is just a transitional thing. When you're playing solo, you're probably relying on guitar licks, scales, faster playing, that kind of thing, and you're in the moment, that's great. And then you know that you wanna finish your solo, so get out. So the idea here is to create a transition between scales, which has all the licks, the fast things, the techniques, and chords. And that transition piece is going to be arpeggios. So we're gonna focus more on the arpeggios of the chords that are happening in the chord progression. A7, D7, A7, E7. And if we play these arpeggios, it's gonna sound a little more melodic, something like this. We'll play it over the turnaround. Here's my A, D, A, and E. And that's my way out, because I was able to gently slow down, bring the listener back to a more melodic way of playing, and then from there, the transition to playing a chord is very natural and very, very smooth. Right? I've got my arpeggios. Now I'm into rhythm guitar mode. Let's hear that in context. I'm playing lead, scales, licks, and then arpeggios. And back to rhythm. super smooth. My third way to finishing a solo can be dangerous if you overuse it. And it's not for everyone, but it's using, in this case, the vibrato bar. I say in this case because it could be using a slide maybe, or just a device that kind of changes the tone and the type of playing that you're doing. Let me demonstrate and we'll talk about that in a sec. Okay, we have our lead guitar player hat on. Here's the end. The important thing here with the bar is just the different type of playing, different sound, something that would create that transition. Combined with the slowdown, which we talked about in the very first thing, the slowdown is kind of a constant. It always works, whether you're doing an ascending thing like we did in the first concept, or even in the second one where we used arpeggios, we kind of slowed down our pace. That's kind of a constant. And that's what I did here. We had this slowdown at the very end using the vibrato bar. Now we're playing solo here, and then here's the transition. Maybe. Experimentation. That's really key there. Getting comfortable with that thing so that it doesn't sound like you're trying too hard. That's the main thing. So it takes a little bit of time, but the vibrato is a great way to finishing a guitar solo. Okay, kind of along those lines of the slowdown, using a different sound, this time we're going to use dynamics, the way you attack notes. This could be done with the pick itself, or it could be done with transition, maybe from a pick type of playing to a finger type of playing where it's a little softer, or even with the volume knob. So I'm going to try to demonstrate this and we'll talk about it after that. I'm going to demonstrate this with the pick. So here I'm in solo mode, playing all the notes with a stronger attack. And then here comes the end, my weight. Really ended softly there. Contrast, that's the main thing. A loud note is meaningful only if it's preceded by soft notes and the other way around. And because we're trying to soften up our playing, to focus more on maybe rhythm type of work, get out of this, mountain explosion of a solo, playing down with dynamics is always an interesting thing. Let's try this with the transition between a pick and the fingers. See what happens there. Using my pick here gives it more of an attack, percussive feel. And then here I'm transitioning to playing with my fingers, which I think gives me more control, more subtle way of playing. And then here I can transition to rhythm. Getting used to transitioning from holding the pick to just playing with fingers is really key. This is the way I do it. There are multiple ways, but that's how I use my pick, held between the thumb and the index. And then when I'm playing with my fingers, my pick is held in the palm of my finger, and my thumb is sliding that pick right here, and it's kind of being, held in place like that in the palm of my finger. Sometimes it'll be kind of like right here between some fingers, but it's kind of like a magician trick, right? You just need to practice this a little bit, and then it gets easier and easier and more comfortable. I don't really have to think about it when I do it, but that's how it works. Another great way to finish a guitar solo is to add a little bit of tension by using a scale that is different from maybe the minor pentatonic blues scale you've been using, which tells the listener that something is about to happen. It places the listener in a weird state because it's tense, it's uncomfortable, and then when the transition happens, when you stop your solo and get back to playing rhythm guitar, the listener is put at ease because you're back into a more of a melodic way of playing. All right, so here I'm in solo mode using my minor blues scale. The transition is going to happen here. I'm using the Lydian dominant scale. And I'm going to end on a note of that chord, which is the 1 chord, and now I can transition to rhythm guitar. Click right here for a video that is going to help you implement these 5 things in your guitar playing. This is the most important thing guitar players can do when they solo. Check it out. I'll meet you right there. And remember, you can also download the backing track. The link is below. Thanks for watching this. I'll meet you right there.